You and I are constantly bombarded by misinformation from politicians, celebrities, and media personalities who demonize guns and gun owners. Their accounts are contrary to my experience as a responsible gun owner, a retired police officer, and a professional competitive shooter. I have listened to their lies and I've taken their punches, but I refuse to stay silent any longer because I know a lot of women who have something to say and they won in the game. They're ready to play offense with the truth.
The truth is, we all want the same thing: to protect ourselves, our families, and to be safe in our communities. The DC Project is a nationwide grassroots organization made up of women from every demographic. We come from all different walks of life, but we are united in preserving our Second Amendment rights. As we share our experiences, we push back against gun control lies and oppose those who demand our rights be restricted.
As an immigrant from Venezuela, I saw how easy it was for freedom to die. My family and I watched tyranny destroy our home. In Venezuela, the media, celebrities, and politicians repeated the same anti-gun messages until people found it normal and acceptable to give up their freedoms. The reality is, none of it is normal or acceptable. Hungry and helpless, Venezuelans are now unable to protect themselves. Now, as a proud American, I am determined to guard against the same things happening here.
We constantly hear about common sense gun control, like universal background checks, banning assault weapons, ghost guns, high-capacity magazines, and gun show loopholes. Every city that is facing massive crime waves have put these policies into place. Common sense tells me that they don't work. So why do people still believe the idea that those policies save lives? Actual common sense is holding criminals accountable, not letting them out of jail or encouraging them to be more confrontational. Common sense is not stealing the right of the American people to protect themselves. This is the message that America needs to hear.
The DC Project works to reduce firearm accidents by campaigning for education in schools. We counter the false gun control lies by testifying in hearings and meeting our legislators. We equip our friends, our families, and our communities to know the truth. Gun owners are good people.
America is a beacon of freedom. The Second Amendment is vital piece in ensuring that our kids can have a free country to grow up in. We stand with the lawmakers who support the Constitution, and we provide armor from the attacks by the gun control lobby.
Join the DC Project today. Become a member, donate, or subscribe to our newsletter for updates on how we educate, advocate, and preserve our Second Amendment rights for generations to come.
When people use a firearm in self-defense, they could be arrested or sued and face extensive legal costs. Firearms Legal Protection provides uncapped legal defense for any member who uses a legal weapon in defense of themselves or others, providing members with peace of mind in these difficult situations by covering all attorney fees and other benefits. Use code EOTT at firearmslegal.com for a discount on all membership plans. Protect yourself. We'll protect you.
Shooter standby.
You hit the radio bullseye. And the home for everything Second Amendment, concealed carry, the latest gear, reciprocity, legislation, the right to self-protection. And it shall not be infringed. This is Eye on the Target Radio with your hosts, Rob and Amanda.
Hey there, Rob.
Hey.
So it's such a good day to be talking Second Amendment, guns, concealed carry, all that. Are you watching people talk about what they want to get for Christmas?
Nope. My granddaughter told me she wants 5 puppies and a phone, though. I told her I don't think that's going to happen. Like, why wouldn't you just get 1 puppy and love it like it's 5 puppies? And she's like, but she wants 5 puppies.
I want 5 puppies. I want 5 puppies and a phone. Yeah, no. I'm thinking
how busy you'd be with 5 puppies.
I can't even imagine because, yeah, because we've been playing with your puppy. And I think that's probably what planted the seed is Poppy got a puppy.
Maybe,
so,
but I know that 5 of them would make you crazy.
Yeah, Rocco's a little jerk. So, yes. No, we'll say Rocco is stubborn. That would be the word. Stubborn. A little jerk.
He's a game player too, so
he is.
He thinks he's got you by the short hairs.
He does. He can look at you and he's like, "Okay, this is how we're playing this game, and I'm the winner because I'm so adorably cute. Bat my little brown eyes at you."
And he'll just try to keep him off the furniture, and he'll run in the house quick and get on the furniture before you get there. So.
Well, he is faster than you. We'll just just say. So no, I'm watching folks put in that, that they've dropped these big hints, that type of thing. If you are thinking about getting your spouse a firearm for Christmas, think about going down to the firearm store and buying a credit, if you will, getting a gift card, or putting $500 down for them to come shop and say, here, this is their gift, that kind of thing.
Sometimes too is so hard to get certain things that she may decide she wants to order something and wait for it instead of well, and there is this thing where I'm seeing, and it's like, stop, just don't do it. Well, I only have this much money. They want X, and so I'm going to buy them tiny little Y that doesn't meet the criteria, doesn't do what they want it to do, but it does shoot bullets, right? And it's like, wait. If they're looking for something specific, they would much rather have whatever you can put toward it. Especially if they know exactly what it is specifically that they're looking for, which is a plus over most people when they just say, I need a gun.
Right.
A little gun or a big gun is usually as much of a qualifier as they have.
I'm going to carry concealed, or yeah. So I'm seeing a lot of like Facebook jokes that say that if you're looking to buy me something for Christmas, I come in a size 45, or I come in a size 223, or
even if you don't buy a gun, I mean, there's so much other stuff. I mean, earmuffs, they wear out. I mean, if you got one that's a couple years old, it's time for new ones anyhow. And
if they've already got them, then that would be one of those things. Buy what they've got, duplicate it.
Right, the Maglula is if you're playing with an auto-loading pistol or rifle and you need something, the Maglula is a thumb saver for sure.
Right, go snoop in their stuff and look at their ammo, and then be like, okay, so if they've got this,
ton
then
of different types of electronic sights now that are coming out. There's laser grips, different things like this.
Right.
Different styles of holsters.
Yeah, I mean, there's stuff, and when you get some of it, you're like, "Ooh, look at this! This is so great."
You say, "I don't know what to get them." You're just not working on it. That's all.
There is some of that, and frankly, pretty much anybody, if they are carrying a gun, if you wanted to in your budget buy them 1 or 2 more magazines for the gun they carry,
right, or just a suitcase full of bullets, because you can never have too many bullets,
right? Or the membership to the local range, those types of things are all firearms related without buying a firearm. Though you can buy a firearm if you know what they want. But so I honestly think that buying a firearm for someone is kind of like buying them underwear. Do you really know what kind they like? and the kind, the size, the style, the type, the color, all of those things. Because otherwise, yeah, you got it, but what are you gonna do with it?
The thing is, I mean, in some cases, you're better off getting something used, like buying a used car. You don't have to make all of these decisions about what color and
Mm-hmm.
what options you're getting. You learn to live within the parameters of whatever I got.
Well, there is that. I
And
mean, that's
if
fine
you
for cars.
and if you've been reading every gun magazine in the country trying to buy a rifle, they're they're very one-sided. They point you at what their favorite is and don't give you the rundown on all.
Right, and they don't look at all the expanses. Yeah,
That's the thing too. Is like there's a lot of. I mean, this new 6.5 Creedmoor thing is a big. If you're looking for a long range rifle, everybody pushes this, but they don't look at any of the old 6.5 stuff that's out there. They don't look at any of the old calibers that have been holding that record for the last 100 years or whatever. And all calibers today are much more accurate than they have ever been. I mean, the computerized machinery they make the stuff on, the bullets are better, the rifling and the barrels are better. So even if you had an old gun that was a good shooter, your new one will probably be better
shooter. So one of our listeners says that all I want for Christmas is for my state to stand down and for people to slap it down. So that would be good. So if you're somebody who doesn't have money, then what you can do is say, look, for Christmas for you, I wrote letters to all your senators, all your congressmen, and I'm standing with you. So that would be a creative, low cost, with meaning.
And the other one says life membership to the SAF, which is
$150 and very, very money well spent. Yeah, Second Amendment Foundation, SAF.org is that. But you could join, I mean, because you can give them a membership to the Second Amendment Foundation, you can give them a membership to the NRA, you could give them membership to their local state organization and their local range. All of those are things that have a lot of meaning to them.
Also, if you're looking at buying, say, optics or something like this, I mean, there's so much to that. Few people understand what it's telling you.
I'm just going to say yes.
But if you go to some of the websites like Optics Planet or to the other gun sites that are selling you things, they have a lot of reviews on there, and you can read what other people have said about I bought it and I love it, or I bought it and I hated it.
Well, and there's a lot of those websites where you can just call them, and it's amazing because they're gun people that man these customer service counters, that's the word, that man the customer service counters, and they will help you, they will guide you, they will steer you. They may burn your credit card pretty darn hard because they're going to steer you to the very best stuff. But
well, the thing is, if you buy, I mean, they sell the best, say the cheapest scope you can buy today is probably better than the best scope you could have bought in 1969.
Right.
I mean, the quality is better, it's sealed better, the glass is better, it doesn't, it's everything's just better about it. But
so
it's
do a lot of people. I have a really hard time using scopes. It's like I have to sit like the drunken clown on the back trying to get my eyeball lined up.
The more power the scope has, then the more eye relief it is particular about it. So if you get a 1 or 2 power scope, your eye could be almost anywhere and it works fine. If you go to a 20 or a 30 power scope, now it's like you're looking at the moon.
I'm trying to look down a straw.
Your eye in this certain spot.
Okay.
And so some of that, when you're looking at this, I mean, field of view is a question. The eye relief is a question. If you have a rifle that kicks really hard and you have a scope that has a really tight eye relief, now it kicks you
right in the head.
The scope bounces off your head, so you get this cool looking half moon on your forehead.
I think what was that? What was that movie with Jane, where she was the TV show that's in Alaska, the
Kilchers, whatever.
Yeah, whatever.
She had a shiner from her rifle scope and that. So
exactly, I remember that. So that's another one of those. I'm like, I don't want to look like Jane.
I mean, ideally, you want to hold the rifle stiff so that it doesn't come back at you, and then you want something that gives you about the length of your fist in the way of an eye relief. And if you're going after something that's going to eat you, you want something when you pull the rifle up, the eye, it shows up right away.
Right.
If you're looking for a prairie dog or half a mile away, you could take a little more time trying to find where the clear spot is in your
Okay. So I maybe have been playing with the ones that I'm thinking something's going to eat me, and yet I've got the prairie dog one. So because I struggle, I really, really struggle with scopes.
When you set the scope up on your rifle, you're supposed to move it forward and backward to where it fits your head every time.
And maybe that's the other part, is that I'm like using yours and your head's fat and mine's not. So wait, did I say
from some other guy 50 years ago who and then you never bothered to move it at all?
Oh, they could be too. So it could be all of those things, because I'm not a scope person, so I don't know.
A lot of old rifles.
We'll be back. We'll talk more.
Okay, you ask yourself, who is this Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition, and what do they do? Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition is a not-for-profit group based in Portage County, registered as a 501c3, and organized to educate about the historical intent of the Second Amendment to the Constitution of the United States of America, to share knowledge, to enable citizens to accurately relate and defend aspects of the U.S. Constitution, to enhance public awareness and support for responsible gun ownership, and to emphasize firearms education for women who facilitate the transmittal of constitutional awareness and gun ownership to succeeding generations. How do they intend to do that? By talking to you all and having you talk back, by hosting educational summits and events. So tune in, listen, and participate. RealizeFAC.com.
Your front door, your car, your gun. Safety is a habit. Gun safety and responsible storage are no different, and the best way to help prevent accidents, misuse, and theft. Cable locks help keep firearms secured. Learn how to get a free firearm safety kit. Visit projectchildsafe.org. If you have a firearm, own it, respect it, and secure it. Brought to you by the National Shooting Sports Foundation and the Bureau of Justice Assistance.
Shotgun with Charlie. I'm Charlie Cook from Riding Shotgun with Charlie. Conversations in the car about gun safety, freedoms, and even a few laughs. Imagine you're in the back seat listening to an intimate chat with me and my passengers as we drive all around the country. Listen, watch, and subscribe to the Riding Shotgun with Charlie YouTube channel and podcast.
Grab your friends and head to Georgia to train with the Complete Combatant. The Complete Combatant offers a unique approach to self-defense training, layering the first signs of danger, lethal versus non-lethal decisions, and even surviving the aftermath. They offer premier firearms training with a Range Master certified instructor and host the top minds in our industry. See the courses offered on thecompletecombatant.com. That's thecompletecombatant.com.
When people use a firearm in self-defense, they could be arrested or sued and face extensive legal costs. Firearms Legal Protection provides uncapped legal defense for any member who uses a legal weapon in defense of themselves or others, providing members with peace of mind in these difficult situations by covering all attorney fees and other benefits. Use code EOTT at firearmslegal.com for a discount on all membership plans. Protect yourself. We'll protect you.
Ladies, ever wish you could find a brand that understood the difference between feminine and functional? A brand that didn't make you choose between looking good and looking tough? Check out offhandgear.com, a brand designed by a gun girl / mom that closed the gap to give you feminine, durable, functional gear. Offhandgear.com, the brand that gets you.
We all know rust is bad. To help keep rust from forming on your firearms, tools, and other ferrous-based items, you want to have Rust is Bad in your gun-safe toolbox and anywhere you want to be rust-free. Rust is Bad bolsters and G-strings deposit small, safe particles that coat your rust-vulnerable items. Save your valuable items with Rust is Bad. Go to www.eyeonthetargetradio.com and follow the link for more information. That's www.eyeonthetargetradio.com for Rust is Bad.
Okay, so do we want to continue on with what we were saying? You were saying something about scopes.
Early rifles, the stocks were not built with a cheek rest on them, so your eye was up in the air, so your face was kind of floating. So you couldn't get a good cheek weld at that point. I mean, they did make some little things that strapped on and different things, but depending on how your rifle's made, sometimes you have trouble with your eye just because of the fact that your stock doesn't support your head.
I just figured that I wasn't a rifle person, so it's become a self-fulfilling prophecy. So if I'm not a rifle person, then I don't worry about trying to be a rifle person.
If you don't like the rifle, then you don't play with the rifle, and then pretty soon you are not a rifle person.
And that's sort of what it's become, is this self-fulfilling prophecy of I'm not a rifle person. People ask me questions, I'm like, yeah, I'll go to a pistol. But I mean, I see that there's value to rifles, and I'm okay with them. But
so Amanda says it's supposed to go back to doing some
history
stuff. What we want to talk about? We want to talk about like this 1903 Springfield. You want to talk about the Craig before that? When we went to the from black powder to smokeless powder. What do you want to?
Now those are big questions.
I mean, if we'll start at Civil War. And during the Civil War, they had 1861 and 1863 Springfields that were 58 caliber muzzle loaders.
Okay.
After the war, they had thousands of these, maybe hundreds of thousands.
Okay, so let's before you jump. So when they went to the war for the Civil War, each soldier supplied their own gun.
The Army gave you Springfield rifles but if you were rich or you came from a rich area, you could buy Henrys or whatever.
Okay.
Then
so
there
you
was
could
other
get
outfits that we've all heard of Burnside, who was famous for his sideburns.
Right.
He had his own rifle built for his group. There was some Bardan had a group of sharpshooters, and they shot special rifles that were built for them.
So they got guns from
everywhere.
the side, and then other people were like, we could do better than that. And so whatever the better than that is, there's a
lot
variety.
Of places they had Revolutionary War stockpiles of guns, and when the guys showed up at the armory to pick up a gun, they were still flintlocks and smoothbores, and they said, we're not going to war with that. You can keep it. So they went into production of some of them they would line the barrel with a rifle liner. Some of them they just cut the back off and converted it to a cap gun so that it used percussion caps, and it was still smoothbore at the time.
And so they did it themselves. There was a local gunsmith.
Some of the local gunsmiths or blacksmiths would do it. Some of them, depend if they had an arsenal there, they would have it done there. So a lot of the stuff, there was modifications in every different way, and
every different person, because everybody's got a different idea. So
So I mean, you may see that there's a certain kind of a rifle. Say you have a Mississippi rifle, 1841 Mississippi, that's been modified, and then you get another one that's been modified in a completely different direction because it was just they were looking for the fastest, easiest way to make it use the more modern equipment of the cap instead of a flintlock type action. And then when after the war, the same thing happened. They had all these rifles. The government was looking to want to go to a fixed cartridge, they called it, the bullet you recognize today. They had one in mind, the 50-70 that they were playing with, but they weren't locked into that. If you said you had a good idea, the government would give you rifles to practice on. You could convert them, and if they liked your idea, there's a possibility that they would pay you for the thing. a guy named Allen, who actually worked for the government, come up with a conversion that they just cut the back of the rifle off, added this lock piece into it, and sleeved the barrel, and it shot 50-70s, and they didn't have to pay him a royalty on each one. So guess what? He won.
He won. He was he was in the lead
was
because
not the best, but it was the cheapest.
There we go.
So early rifles, you could, if you got an early Allen conversion, they still have an 1863 lock on them or a 61 lock on them. They have the barrel is actually sleeved. You can see where they soldered a rifled liner into the 58 caliber barrel, and the back of the action, they cut it off, and then they just put a trap door on it. They screwed on with 2 screws, so you can see this is just bolted right on the top of the barrel. Then the second model, they actually made an action that they screwed the barrel into, and they used 50 caliber barrels on the second model. So that was a much stronger improvement on the thing. And then later, I think they made 3 models of the 50-70, and then they went to the 45-70 in 1873.
Okay.
And those actions were much stronger than the earlier style actions, but they also have a high and a low arch on the trap door. When you look at it, if it's almost got a solid round piece that comes back front to back, that's called a low arch gun, and those are safe to shoot. But if you have one that's got a big cutout where it's really relieved up inside of it, those tend to want to spring together when you shoot them, and then that unlocks the lock in the back, and then it pops open.
And your face is right there.
Right, and your face is right there.
So there's an explosion happening with your face right there.
Right, so high arch guns are not recommended to be shot, but you can buy a low arch
modification
block and put it in there and shoot that gun at that point.
Okay. So if you've got one, you need to know whether you've got a high arch and a low arch.
You can find online where it says high arch or low arch. It'll explain how it works and stuff like this. But then too is when the French developed smokeless powder in the 1880s, they tried to stick with that same action because they thought a single shot was a better way to go, because if they gave you a lot of bullets, you would just shoot them up for no reason. So instead of you shooting them willy-nilly, they wanted
right. It just so happens that the other troops are coming at you, gangbusters, but you don't want to shoot your bullets willy-nilly.
So anyhow, they did modify some of the Springfields to make them 30-40 Krag caliber, and they have a different lock on them, and that they're super rare, they're super expensive. If you have one of them, I wouldn't recommend shooting it. I recommend you sell it to somebody for enough money to buy yourself a couple of rifles you can shoot,
and maybe a car.
Right, they're built. They were built as a stopgap thing, trying to use the same. They decided it wasn't going to work, and they went to the Krag Jorgensen, and that was a Norwegian rifle.
Okay, so you're going to write that down. We're going to talk about the Krag Jorgensen next time. Okay. So we'll be back right after this message.
Grab your friends and head to Georgia to train with the Complete Combatant. The Complete Combatant offers a unique approach to self-defense training, layering the first signs of danger, lethal versus non-lethal decisions, and even surviving the aftermath. They offer premier firearms training with a Rangemaster certified instructor and host the top minds in our industry. See the courses offered on thecompletecombatant.com. That's thecompletecombatant.com.
When people use a firearm in self-defense, they could be arrested or sued and face extensive legal costs. Firearms Legal Protection provides uncapped legal defense for any member who uses a legal weapon in defense of themselves or others, providing members with peace of mind in these difficult situations by covering all attorney fees and other benefits. Use code EOTT at firearmslegal.com for a discount on all membership plans. Protect yourself. We'll protect you.
Okay, you ask yourself, who is this Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition, and what do they do? Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition is a not-for-profit group based in Portage County, registered as a 501c3, and organized to educate about the historical intent of the Second Amendment to the Constitution of the United States of America, to share knowledge, to enable citizens to accurately relate and defend aspects of the U.S. Constitution, to enhance public awareness and support for responsible gun ownership, and to emphasize firearms education for women who facilitate the transmittal of constitutional awareness and gun ownership to succeeding generations. How do they intend to do that? By talking to you all and having you talk back, by hosting educational summits and events. So tune in, listen, and participate. RealizeFAC.com.
This is Cheryl Todd of Gun Freedom Radio, and I am proud to join Amanda Suffolcool and all the 50 women, one from each state, in our grassroots efforts to protect the Second Amendment as delegates of the DC Project. Grassroots organizations like the DC Project run on donations, so please consider donating to our GoFundMe/DC Project to keep the promise of freedom alive.
Shotgun with Charlie. I'm Charlie Cook from Riding Shotgun with Charlie. Conversations in the car about gun safety, freedoms, and even a few laughs. Imagine you're in the back seat listening to an intimate chat with me and my passengers as we drive all around the country. Listen, watch, and subscribe to the Riding Shotgun with Charlie YouTube channel and podcast.
Ladies, ever wish you could find a brand that understood the difference between feminine and functional? A brand that didn't make you choose between looking good and looking tough. Check out offhandgear.com, a brand designed by a gun girl/mom that closed the gap to give you feminine, durable, functional gear. Offhandgear.com, the brand that gets you.
Hi, this is Paul Lathrop from the Polite Society podcast. I wanted to let you know that the show you're listening to is a proud member of the Self-Defense Radio Network. You can check out all the shows on the network by going to selfdefenseradio.net or tune in for more on Self-Defense Mondays on Karma Radio, KRMAradio.com.
Okay, well, let's talk a little bit about the history of the 4473 form, because I think that it just came over the wire that as of February 1st of 2023, the new ATF 4473 forms are going to be coming out, and they are different, and so you should expect.
They keep loading more and more stuff on the little guy to do, but without compensation. I mean, where's that taxation without representation
right.
thing kick in?
And it's like, you want to sell a gun, now you have to do this form, and then you have to do this, and then you have to do this.
And then you have to wait 10 days and fill out this, or mail one here and here and here and here. And if you don't, there's big penalties in that. I don't see how they can get away with all of that. I mean,
well, it's going to be interesting. So the 4473 form, or form
it started in 1968 with the Gun Control Act of 68, and at that time it was a one-sided sheet that asked you your name and if you were planning on overthrowing the government and if you were a habitual drug user. I mean, it basically, I think it had 6 questions on it.
Yeah, and then they started adding to it. So I went back looking for the history of it, and President Johnson was the one who pled with Congress in the name of sanity, in the name of safety, and in the name of an aroused nation, give America the gun control law it needs. And that was his statement on the 1968 Gun Control Act. And so, yeah, it's just kind of
when it's all said and done and we get a chance to see behind the curtain and all that stuff, all of that stuff was forced on us by the government through like CIA action and stuff like this. So all the things that make you tend to scream that you need more gun control are funded by the government to make you want more gun control.
Okay, I don't disagree, but so the significant revisions in the form are going to be that they're tracking privately made firearms, And so those must be identified in the Form 4473. And so there's that. Question 10 is amended to say the transferee buyer is now asked to answer whether they reside in the city limits. And the question is, why do they need to know if I reside in the city limits?
City police on you instead of the.
That one's one of those that it didn't make any sense. I mean, we knew that the questions were coming on the privately made firearms. I didn't know about the city limits one.
Well, the big thing is, what are they going to make you serial number the privately made firearms? How do you check
at this point, it doesn't say. But if you're going to transfer a privately made firearm, do it before February 1. That's what.
The funny
we're going to start there.
Is there's a ton of old guns, and if you in the 40s after World War II, there was a couple of companies that were into building sporterized rifles and stuff like this, and so they would take like the British Enfield or the Russian 91 Nagant and cut the barrel off, cut the stock off, do a bunch of things to it, and then they would call it a Santa Fe 1949 Model C or a D or a B.
Right. So they just named it something that they wanted to name it, but it was made by somebody, but now modified by somebody.
Right. But you get it today, and if you don't know that it was a Model C or a B or a D, it may say the San Francisco 1949 part of it, but it doesn't give you a model number. So you still have to say, well, it's an Enfield or it was a Russian or something. But if you don't know that it's an Enfield or a Russian, now you put this 1949 thing on, and the ATF guy coming to the door, he wouldn't know an Enfield from a Russian either.
Right.
And so all this stuff is lost to terminology that nobody really understands, and
they don't know what they don't know. So
they just
keep
filling out paperwork for no apparent reason.
No,
no one can track it if they had to.
Right.
It's like that dress on eBay where they can't tell if it's gray or blue or green or red or yellow or whatever.
And then the question is, who cares?
Right.
Okay, we're at the who cares thing. I brought this story up because one, I wanted everybody to know that come February,
there's new numbers coming.
There's new numbers, new questions, so you just can't answer the questions in the same old check, uncheck, right, kind of thing. You can't do that. So one of the questions is, do you intend to sell or otherwise dispose of any firearm listed on this form or any continuation sheet or ammunition in furtherance of any felony or other offense punishable by imprisonment of a term of more than a year, a federal crime of terrorism, or a drug trafficking offense?
Now, who would say yes to that?
If I'm a criminal.
And then two is, if you were buying that gun, normally you wouldn't know who you were selling it to at that time because it's still cool and new. I mean,
right.
They got to give you a couple of days before all of a sudden the novelty wears off.
Well, there is that, but then there is this other.
You get home and the wife puts her foot down.
Well, okay, there is that. There is. You bought what? On the week we needed groceries, and right. But no. So earlier this week, I went down to Columbus, so to our state capitol, to testify about Senate Bill 357. And a section, the bill is abhorrent, absolutely abhorrent on multiple levels. But a section of that bill actually said that they needed to fill out additional form and additional information if they were the recipient of SNAP, government medical, or government assistance in any manner. And the question is, so why? And in talking to the senator who drafted the bill, he was like, well, the ATF says that if you receive government assistance, there is a higher incident of straw purchases. And I was like, well, prosecute them. So then this question and that question kind of tie together. And it's like, wait.
So what they're going after is the poor.
Yes.
So if you don't have money and you think you can make money in the middle of this, then all of a sudden they're going after the poor. And so why already proved that all gun control is to keep guns out of the hands of the poor.
Yes, and there's this whole the whole underserved communities, and you start to look at this, and it was like this. You're drawing an assumption that if you get government assistance, you are more inclined to break the law. That's what you're saying, right? So why don't you prosecute the lawbreakers? So back to criminal reform instead of, he's like, you don't understand. And I'm like, oh no, sir, respectfully, I believe I do understand. And because he said something and I was like, okay, I don't know the rules. Can I speak? Right? Because I do not want to be argumentative to a senator while we're sitting in an official thing, but you're wrong. You're dead wrong. And somebody filled your head full of absolute crap. And so I was trying very hard to refrain and show some restraint, yet get my point across. So I did that. And then the guy who was testifying directly after me, who was also against the bill, he didn't have any restraint. We'll just say. So his lack of restraint was he reached into his wallet, pulled out his credit card, and he was like, I was reading through this bill, and this bill very much reminds me of the President Joe Biden telling his wife to go out on the balcony and shoot a double-barreled shotgun, and that it's bunk, right? Well, he used a little more descriptive words than that, but he kind of went down that path, and he was like, and if that's really what you think, you don't belong in the state of Ohio. And so here, I will use this credit card, and he's waving his credit card around. I will use this credit card to buy you a one-way ticket to Delaware where you will fit in nicely. And I'm like, oh, okay, folks. It's not often that I get to be the good cop in the good cop versus bad cop thing, but I wasn't waving my credit card around. I wasn't threatening to throw anybody out of the state. I was just saying, please, sir, may I speak? Right? But I see these connections, and I sincerely hope that you see them also.
Well, the thing is that they keep saying that the left is trying to make end runs around the laws that are in there. I mean, you're seeing where New York tried to pass new laws, New Jersey, everybody, and they can't. Everything comes up as unconstitutional, no matter what they twist.
It just keeps
around.
going. Right.
But it doesn't stop them, and they keep on coming up with new things that, even though they're new to them, they're not new, and they're still not going to make it through the.
They don't meet the letter nor the intent of the law. So stop it. Just stop it. Yeah. So
well, that's the thing. It's interesting where you say you need to go after the criminal, and they don't want to do that.
No, and they want to. So one of the things that this senator said was that it does not. It really doesn't impact. He says, we're not taking your guns. We're not taking your guns at all. This is all before you buy a gun. And it's like, well, okay, so you're telling me that that's supposed to be better? Is if I can't get a gun at all, then you're not taking my guns? You're just keeping me from getting guns? No, that too is a problem. And if I cannot defend myself, if I cannot talk to others who can defend themselves, if there's a spot where they need, especially if you live in an underserved community, if you live in a place where crime is high, where the gangs are active, where the news just keeps saying this person was killed, this kid took a gun to school, this teenager was shot in his car as he pulled into his house, this house party was attacked. If you keep seeing that, you probably need a gun as you move around your community. That's really what you need.
And you're seeing it more and more everywhere.
Oh my goodness. We did not have a lot of crime, and I can't say that anymore. Did not is not do not. We'll be back.
Honest citizens like you protect themselves every day. We talk about it every week on the Self-Defense Gun Stories podcast. Were these gun owners lucky, or did they have a plan? How should we defend the people we love? We discuss recent examples on the Self-Defense Gun Stories podcast. Put us in your pocket.
Hi, I'm Janelle Westrom, owner of Davenport Guns and Davenport Shooting Club. At Davenport Guns, we do so much more than sell firearms. We advocate for increased personal safety and security, not just for you, but your whole family and community. Go to davenportguns.com to see our online inventory and browse videos, articles, and things we just find entertaining. Sign up for our newsletter to learn more.
This is Cheryl Todd of Gun Freedom Radio, and I am proud to join Amanda Seppacool and all the 50 women, one from each state, in our grassroots efforts to protect the Second Amendment as delegates of the DC Project. Grassroots organizations like the DC Project run on donations, so please consider donating to our GoFundMe/DC Project to keep the promise of freedom alive.
Ladies, ever wish you could find a brand that understood the difference between feminine and functional? A brand that didn't make you choose between looking good and looking tough. Check out offhandgear.com, a brand designed by a gun girl/mom that closed the gap to give you feminine, durable, functional gear. Offhandgear.com, the brand that gets you.
Okay, you ask yourself, who is this Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition, and what do they do? Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition is a not-for-profit group based in Portage County, registered as a 501c3, and organized to educate about the historical intent of the Second Amendment to the Constitution of the United States of America, to share knowledge, to enable citizens to accurately relate and defend aspects of the U.S. Constitution, to enhance public awareness and support for responsible gun ownership, and to emphasize firearms education for women who facilitate the transmittal of constitutional awareness and gun ownership to succeeding generations. How do they intend to do that? By talking to you all and having you talk back, by hosting educational summits and events. So tune in, listen, and participate. RealizeFAC.com.
Shotgun with Charlie. I'm Charlie Cook from Riding Shotgun with Charlie. Conversations in the car about gun safety, freedoms, and even a few laughs. Imagine you're in the backseat listening to an intimate chat with me and my passengers as we drive all around the country. Listen, watch, and subscribe to the Riding Shotgun with Charlie YouTube channel and podcast.
When people use a firearm in self-defense, they could be arrested or sued and face extensive legal costs. Firearms Legal Protection provides uncapped legal defense for any member who uses a legal weapon in defense of themselves or others, providing members with peace of mind in these difficult situations by covering all attorney fees and other benefits. Use code EOTT at firearmslegal.com for a discount on all membership plans. Protect yourself. We'll protect you.
Okay, we are back. So one of the things that we have been talking to you about each and every week is the impact of Bruen and what that really means state by state, law by law, where things are happening. So let's talk about Oregon. Let's talk about Washington State. So start with Oregon. So Oregon's measure, the 114, the interesting thing, it was due to go into effect on Thursday, December 8th, but the judge put a hold on it. And so Harney County Circuit Court judge put a hold on it so that it is still there, it's still written, but it's not going into effect. Well, one would think that would be good. Well, it sort of is, but it's sort of not. So right now, more than 36,000 people are on a hold list waiting for their background check so that they can get their guns, because it wasn't the lack of the gun, with the lack of the paperwork, the lack of whatever. It was the state police had to look at them, and they are slow to do so. So because this was put on hold, those people may stand a chance on getting their guns. And I say stand a chance because some of the stores are not taking any chances. And even though they put a hold on it, their answer is they don't want their employees to have to get political or to be knowledgeable about what's happening and whether there's a stay or there's not a stay, or whether they can or whether they can't, or all of those kind of things. So they said, it said December 8th. December 8th was December 8th. December 8th happened. And so any gun that was not transferred out, we shipped back. And if you do want it, you'll have to wait to do the new paperwork and try to get it in the new manner. Other shops are still selling and shipping and moving until the law shuts them down completely. But the other piece of this is that we firmly believe, though we're not lawyers, that that this is going to be peeled off and be found to be unconstitutional, as is so many other different cases.
Right. The big problem is you have to wait till it goes through the courts before it does get peeled off, and so who's at inconvenience? The law-abiding and not the lawbreaker. So
exactly. So the lawbreakers. Well, that I have another story about that. So there's an Indiana man who ran from the police, and the police stopped him, caught him, and he was wanted for a couple things when they stopped him, but he had a machine gun when they stopped him. So they arrested him for possession of a machine gun, 2 counts of resisting law enforcement, driving while suspended, unlawful carrying of a handgun, possession of cocaine, and possession of marijuana. So they did not arrest him for dealing. So this machine gun, the cocaine and the marijuana, were for his own personal use.
Well, the machine gun is that little attachment they're putting on the Chinese were selling everybody for putting on their airsoft guns.
For their airsoft guns that, yes.
So they found out that they work on real guns, and so they put them on there too. So that's what he has, the Glock with this attachment on his
on it, and there you go. So
but the thing is, they didn't get him for dealing, and it doesn't really look like they're doing anything else.
No,
so I think it'll go under the rug, and then they'll throw it out.
They'll throw it out, and he'll be.
The thing too, though, is this could be a case that's going to take the NFA to Bruin,
right?
Because of the fact that is the machine gun an actual problem? And if the machine gun isn't a problem for this guy, then it's not a problem for any of us.
Right. So the question is, did he? So he had driving while suspended. So he had a suspended license, but it doesn't say anything about possessing a firearm under a disability. So it doesn't allude that he was a felon before this.
But we could only hope that they're not so smart and throw that out of they're going to plea bargain that away. And he makes it to court with his machine gun, machine gun.
And then Adam Kraut's Second Amendment Foundation and the others are going to be like, bazinga!
We found one.
We found one. There you go. All I have to say to this whole thing is, when guns are outlawed, only outlaws will have guns. I mean, that's really this. And they were like, oh, he was running from the police, and he had the cocaine, and he had marijuana, and he had
I like
suspension.
this statement on this article about the Bruin, where they're saying that the liberals are like teenagers, and no matter what you tell them they can't do, they'll do everything in their power to get around that.
So here's the quote from Tom Knighton, and Tom Knighton just cracks me up anyhow. So Tom Knighton's statement: anti-gun Democrat-controlled states are like teenagers in many ways. One way is that if you give them a limit, they'll do everything they can to circumvent both the letter and the spirit of that rule. So Tom Knighton, you are my hero. Look him up. So many of my favorite writers are on Bearing Arms, AmmoLand, Truth About Guns. Those, go there, check some stuff out. Look for the highlights and see what you think. But there's always some pretty interesting things that come up there. But we'll hold on to this to see if Deontay Jackson comes back into our back into our limits and our view as we go forward, because there's so many things that you see them and then they go away, and then it's like, wait, remember that? Dig that back out, because there is that. So now California has another something. This is the Attorney General's story. There's another spot where California's counties, the California sheriff. So let's see, in this San Mateo County, they are having an issue with the sheriff favoring donors on gun permits. Well, in Santa Clara County, they just took the sheriff down and out, pitched her, arrested and fired so many of her staff. And so now what they're finding is county by county, location by location, when they say that it is a May issue state, that it is that it could happen if they find you are acceptable, if they find your background is not offensive, if they find that you haven't done anything wrong, they may issue you a permit. Well, now what they're finding is that in California, at least, it's if your pockets are deep enough, if you're generous enough with those pockets, if you have not offended me in any manner, then potentially we can fast track your concealed carry license from 10 or 12 months or never to 2 weeks. And so now there's a second sheriff that's in, we'll say, that's in the soup because of it. I don't know. I just see this and it's like, well, at first it was like, is this the same story coming back? And then it's like, no, this is a whole nother county. This is a dude instead of a gal. And, but it is still reprehensible, repulsive. And, these are the people who are supposed to be supporting the laws, standing for the laws, and not lining their own pockets for their own self-worth. So doesn't that just kind of offend you?
But that's the problem, is that all good plans are circumvented by somebody who thinks they can make $1.
There you go. Because you're not looking and it could benefit me, right? Is that what you're saying? There. So I'm going to hold on to this and I'm going to hand it to some of my other writer friends, because I'm sure that this is going to become an additional story that will make it on the podcast variety show, if you will. So we are going to
podcast variety show.
Well, there are so many of them, and when you start to look, they just cross over all the people. And I mean, it's kind of fun, and you get to know your people, and there's that. But we'll be back.
Okay, you ask yourself, who is this Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition, and what do they do? Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition is a not-for-profit group based in Portage County, registered as a 501c3, and organized to educate about the historical intent of the Second Amendment to the Constitution of the United States of America, to share knowledge, to enable citizens to accurately relate and defend aspects of the U.S. Constitution, to enhance public awareness and support for responsible gun ownership, and to emphasize firearms education for women who facilitate the transmittal of constitutional awareness and gun ownership to succeeding generations. How do they intend to do that? By talking to you all and having you talk back, by hosting educational summits and events. So tune in, listen, and participate. RealizeFAC.com.
When people use a firearm in self-defense, they could be arrested or sued and face extensive legal costs. Firearms Legal Protection provides uncapped legal defense for any member who uses a legal weapon in defense of themselves or others, providing members with peace of mind in these difficult situations by covering all attorney fees and other benefits. Use code EOTT at firearmslegal.com for a discount on all membership plans. Protect yourself. We'll protect you.
stand by.
You hit the radio bullseye. And the home for everything Second Amendment, concealed carry, the latest gear, reciprocity, legislation, the right to self-protection, and it shall not be infringed. This is Eye on the Target Radio with your hosts, Rob and Amanda.
Okay, welcome back for hour 2 of Eye on the Target Radio. It's so exciting to be here in studio with you.
It is, huh?
That's the part where people
I get that all the time.
People say that they love your dry humor, and I was like, it's either dry or it's humor, but the two together is not really.
You know, and it's funny. This morning, somebody sent me a picture of a rifle barrel that looks like it came out of a fire.
Okay.
What do you figure this fits? and
You're
it
like,
looks like it might be something between 22 and 35 caliber. What do you think it is?
You're like, it looks like it had been a fire poker.
So they sent me about 10 pictures of it, and it turned out to be a Flowbert. And but it was funny because theirs was a center fire action, and most of those were not. And so it was like, I'm like, that's a little different. But they don't have no stock or anything. It was just something that Grandpa had somewhere along the line. And
okay, so tell folks about what is a Flowbert and what were they typically?
Flowbert is. Well, commonly he's given credit for rimfire bullets like the 22 CB and BB caps and stuff like this. And I believe they were French, and they made little cheap little rifles that a lot of people have them. They got like an action that the back just flips up in the air, and when it flips up, it forces the extractor to push the bullet out. Most of them you see are so rusty that you barely couldn't recognize them.
Okay.
It was like $2 for a rifle, so you can imagine it was probably built out of the finest quality material.
Right, that you could dig up under the porch.
They call them parlor guns. They were built for shooting into the fireplace, stuff like this. So they made like 4 and 6 millimeter guns, which 4 in Europe was popular. 6 millimeter here is a 22.
So what were you shooting into the fireplace with for?
You just use the logs and the bricks as a backstop, and you shot
for entertainment. I thought that there was like something
It used to be before people applied common sense. They would go to the bar and drink a lot of beer, and then they would shoot into the fireplace for entertainment.
Okay.
Like playing darts, only with guns.
Only with guns, just in case. Just in case you need to know that. Here, look at that. I can shoot the bark right off that log, right there. I'm going to shoot that
they
part.
Actually had targets and different things that spun and things like that they put up in front of the
in front of the fireplace.
But it was just that.
Okay.
A lot of people they didn't have television and video games like that, so they went to the bar and.
Well, there is that. There is a lot of that. I mean,
we don't really understand how people entertain themselves in the 17 and 18 early 1800s
before TV, because it wasn't even. I mean, because before TV there was radio, but there was only radio limited, so you could.
Well, you figure the radio came into play in the early 30s, and and TV came really into the play in the mid to late 40s, and not everybody really had one until into the 50s sometime.
Right.
So prior to that, you had to find something to do that. You read a book, you played darts, you played checkers, you did something like that, and. But yeah, a lot of people would just go to the bar and they would shoot 22 pistols into the fireplace.
I mean, I think that's entertaining as long as they don't shoot one another. You know, there is that.
Going back to Flowbert, these little cheap guns, it was basically an inline barrel, had a hammer, external hammer, and they had a little breech block that when you cocked the hammer, flicked this up, it was open straight through. You just loaded the bullet in, flipped the lever down, and then aimed it and pulled the trigger, and it shot. They made them in 4 millimeters, 6 millimeter. They had some different like 25s and 32s and 30 rimfires and stuff like this. A lot of people used them like as a garden gun, just something to keep the groundhogs off of the
varmints off my rutabagas.
And,
okay, so So the one that you found, that they found, that showed you, that you found and identified.
Well, his is, he says it was centerfire, which is not usual. Most of them were rimfire guns because they aren't real.
Robert says that that's why people back then had large families. There wasn't TV to watch, so you had to be entertained.
Right.
We'll just carry on. But
And it was cold too.
it was cold, so it was a pretty far piece for where the fire was to where the blankets were. Got it. Yep. I'm just looking for body heat. Well, no. Right. Yeah.
Right. I mean, back before everybody had a phone so they could be on Facebook, they had to talk to each other.
There you go. Oh man. So okay. So you had this gun has no value. It has value.
They basically don't have any value. Like I say, most of them are so rusty. I mean, you see them at auctions and stuff, $20, $30, $40. Most of them have a broken stock that's been repaired.
So if you were entertained, you could get one with a broken stock and you could just remake its stock. If
right.
you were,
then
you didn't have TV
and
to
most
watch.
of them you'd have to reline the barrel because, like I say, the barrel's shut off. But if you get one of them, this was a 32 rimfire or it was a 30 rimfire or something like this, there's really not too much you can do with it because of the bullets are long obsolete.
Got it. Okay.
And
but we could hang it on the fireplace and we could talk about Grandpa's gun.
They do kind of look cool because they all of them had a heavy octagon barrel and they look old right from the beginning. So whether it looks like a tomato steak or a gun, it looks old.
It looks old. It's all that. Okay, got it. I mean, and I think that's an interesting aspect of it, is that everybody had one.
Well, a lot of the old guns, they made a rimfire, and they did make some centerfire ones. And today, if you have a rimfire gun and you're lucky enough to find a centerfire breech block, that's all you really need to convert it over. And so, like a 32 rimfire is basically the same cartridge dimensions as a 32 Colt. So the 32 long and short Colt will fit into the rimfire guns just by changing the firing pin from the edge to the center. And the same with some of the 38s. The old 38 rimfires were basically 38 Smith & Wesson bullets and stuff like this. So there's a lot of different things you can do to get the gun up and shooting again. It was funny because early on, they didn't have Walmarts everywhere, so you couldn't really say you could go buy bullets all the time. So some of them actual manufacturers would make a little fake bullet that fit in and put a percussion cap on it, so you could load the gun as a muzzleloader when you couldn't find bullets.
Okay.
And then when you could find bullets, you could take that plug out and shoot your fixed cartridges in it.
A little bit of both.
But at least you weren't stuck with a gun with no ammo at that point.
Yeah, I would think. I mean, I think that's always such an interesting thing, is when you're starting to transition, you're trying to do a transition. What do you do and how do you do it? I mean, right now, America is facing that with the electric cars. And it's like, look, everybody says we're going all electric. Well, fine, except you can't get power everywhere.
Use the common sense of the old people, you would put a small gas generator in these cars so that when you're having dinner or something, the thing would be charging the batteries while
as you're dealing with the transition, or if you're stuck
driving
somewhere
down the road with the both.
So Robert says he actually has a pinfire gun. Rob's friend, who shall remain nameless, is actually reloading and has built his own pinfire bullets.
He has a couple of 11 millimeter guns, which are 44 caliber, and he's been making bullets from old 45 automatic brass, and he's doing pretty good at it. So we'll give him a couple more weeks of practice till
you're ready to go. But he keeps inviting you to go, and it's like, look, he's got 20 hours per bullet in this. Don't mess it up. Do not mess it up. But you really appreciate that. So so Mike's saying at the time of carnival shows that they used 22 shorts for shooting the bottles and stuff. They did, and they actually used
the bullets were made out of graphite.
They were kind of sintered or layered, and
right, they were just a lead and graphite mix, and so they would disintegrate when they hit the target.
So it was like
ricochet
Annie Oakley's bullets inside the tent, so she didn't shoot through the big top.
Well, she would. A lot of times they shot cartridges for the trick shooting things because that way they didn't shoot through the tent, and also then Two, the bullets didn't come down somewhere in town.
That would be bad.
A mile or so away.
Right. That they know that there's a shooting show over at that side of town.
They could do the trick with solid bullets, but it was just for the safety of the crowd and the equipment. They use shot cartridges in some of the shows. But like I said, a lot of the shooting galleries used what they were called Can't Splash, and they were basically a lead and graphite mix that was bonded together. And so when you shot them, they just flattened out and turned to dust again. A lot of old people used them for hunting too, because of the fact that the bullets, so you could shoot next to something and still get it, so you didn't have to.
Oh, because then it would give
look
them
like a shotgun, basically. You could.
Yeah, because it was splatter. It really wasn't ricochet. It was
was
shot,
cut and it splattered,
spread.
And so you could shoot a brick wall next to a mouse or a rat or something and still get it.
And then still get it. Okay, we'll be back right after this.
Honest citizens like you protect themselves every day. We talk about it every week on the Self-Defense Gun Stories podcast. Were these gun owners lucky, or did they have a plan? How should we defend the people we love? We discuss recent examples on the Self-Defense Gun Stories podcast. Put us in your pocket.
Hi, I'm Janelle Westrom, owner of Davenport Guns and Davenport Shooting Club. At Davenport Guns, we do so much more than sell firearms. We advocate for increased personal safety and security, not just for you, but your whole family and community. Go to davenportguns.com to see our online inventory and browse videos, articles, and things we just find entertaining. Sign up for our newsletter to learn more.
Your front door, your car, your gun. Safety is a habit. Gun safety and responsible storage are no different, and the best way to help prevent accidents, misuse, and theft. Cable locks help keep firearms secured. Learn how to get a free firearm safety kit. Visit projectchildsafe.org. If you have a firearm, own it, respect it, and secure it. Brought to you by the National Shooting Sports Foundation and the Bureau of Justice Assistance.
Hi, this is Paul Lathrop from the Polite Society podcast. I wanted to let you know that the show you're listening to is a proud member of the Self-Defense Radio Network. You can check out all the shows on the network by going to selfdefenseradio.net or tune in for more on Self-Defense Mondays on Karma Radio, krmaradio.com.
This is Cheryl Todd of Gun Freedom Radio, and I am proud to join Amanda Suffolcool and all the 50 women, one from each state, in our grassroots efforts to protect the Second Amendment as delegates of the DC Project. Grassroots organizations like the DC Project run on donations, so please consider donating to our GoFundMe/DC Project to keep the promise of freedom alive.
When people use a firearm in self-defense, they could be arrested or sued and face extensive legal costs. Firearms Legal Protection provides uncapped legal defense for any member who uses a legal weapon in defense of themselves or others, providing members with peace of mind in these difficult situations by covering all attorney fees and other benefits. Use code EOTT at firearmslegal.com for a discount on all membership plans. Protect yourself. We'll protect you.
Ladies, ever wish you could find a brand that understood the difference between feminine and functional? A brand that didn't make you choose between looking good and looking tough. Check out offhandgear.com, a brand designed by a gun girl/mom that closed the gap to give you feminine, durable, functional gear. Offhandgear.com, the brand that gets you.
We all know rust is bad. To help keep rust from forming on your firearms, tools, and other ferrous-based items, you want to have Rust is Bad in your gun-safe toolbox and anywhere you want to be rust-free. Rust is Bad bolsters and G-strings deposit small, safe particles that coat your rust-vulnerable items. Save your valuable items with Rust is Bad. Go to www.eyeonthetargetradio.com and follow the link for more information. That's www.eyeonthetargetradio.com for Rust is Bad.
Okay, so there are some folks that own businesses that have to take the security of their business into their own hands. Did you see the article and the pictures of the Philadelphia gas stations?
I just heard about it on the radio that the guy had hired people with AR-15s to guard his gas station.
Right.
But other gas stations in the area are getting carjacked, and so I wonder how much more gas he's selling versus those stations.
I don't know. So here's the question, and this is kind of to all of our listeners too. Think about this. If you saw someone with an AR or with a rifle or with a outside the waistband holstered pistol, and you saw them at your gas station, would you continue to have that as your gas station? Would you go there, or would you move to a different gas station? Would you feel safer, or would you
the way
feel?
It sounds as he has multiple people that are patrolling the whole area. It's not just the one guy with a shotgun out there, and so he's trying to make it so that you're safe no matter where you're at on his property.
Right. So his gas station, he's making it safe in his gas station. So when you stop at this Philadelphia gas station, yeah. So would you feel safer? Would you go there, or would you feel somewhat intimidated? I mean, and as a gun person, I think that's a legit. Do we second guess?
Are they standing there with across their chest in the kind of armed guard type?
In a parade at rest, or do they got a finger on a trigger?
Is it
low
ready? Sling at the low ready, so that they're just standing there at the corner or by the door or whatever?
Right. I don't know. So somebody's saying, does Rob know everything that's old time firearms related? If you ask him, yes. No, he knows that he does. So we'll go to that and then we'll come back. So one of our listeners says, does Rob know everything that's old time gun related? As you know, Rob and I are siblings. And so the interesting thing is he's 2 years older than I am. And I have to say that I'm quicker at things than he is. So one of the things is that I started to read before he started to read. And I can remember picking up books and then reading them to us.
I don't see that when at the time I didn't see there was any value in a book. There was nothing that I needed out of it.
He didn't need to read. This is his little hard round head. And then one day he picked up a Dixie Gun Works magazine catalog that had gun pictures in it, and he wanted to know what it said. So he practically taught himself to read, because it wasn't like the school is going to teach him how to read the Dixie Gun Works catalog. And I can remember him standing then reading to everybody. So you know how like now you'll see where people are reading to they take the kids and have them read to the dogs, and it helps both the dog and the kids. Well, Rob would read to you whether you wanted to be read to or not. And so he would be like, look at this, look what I found.
Stuff you should have known.
The stuff I should have known. To the point where he would stand, if you were in the bathroom taking a bath, he would stand outside the door and he would read you what was in his magazine that he was getting right then.
And so I know how to load a 6-pound Napoleon cannon because I read Dixie Gun Works catalog, and you don't. So there.
That's the spot where I'm gonna roll over and say yes. That's exactly it. So I got to the spot where I didn't have to know that part.
And I know that there's aerial grades of black powder, and then there's firearms grades of black powder, and the numbers do not match.
So we've agreed that he knows things that I don't know, and I know things that he doesn't know, and that it's my job to go out and talk to people because he doesn't really like people, and his job to sit and read the gun history and play with guns and figure that out. So between the two of us, we kind of make one well-rounded human being. But yes, he pretty much, that is what he did from the time that he learned to read. My mother had almost given up hope. She thought he was uneducatable. And when he decided that he was going to start reading, she bought him any book that he said that he wanted that was firearms related. If he wanted a book, he got it, because he was reading and she was grateful. And so he became a voracious reader.
Well, in the old days, like the Shooter's Bible in 1963, it has huge amounts of like things on choke tubes, on proof marks, on different manufacturers, things like this. By the 70s, the book was basically just a catalog to sell your guns out of. They didn't really hardly cover any sideline stuff.
So he had to go find the old catalogs.
Right, the Gun Digest at that time had much more articles in it, but some years it was all boring articles that I wasn't at all interested in.
Well, and then the other part was that since our father was a gun collector, so we would go to gun shows, Rob would then talk to the little old dudes, and then he would say something about how interesting that magazine was. They would give it to him. So the kid was carrying around all these magazines, and then he would carry them around and read those to us.
Well, there's things like everybody knows that Colt made the Lightning and the Thunder in the 41 but you never see a Rainmaker. They made 32 caliber ones, and they called them Rainmakers. Actually, Colt didn't. A company out of Cincinnati did, and these Rainmakers are so rare that I have never actually seen one in the wild. I've seen people who have 8 or 10 of them, but they had collected them.
They've already captured them, and then you've seen them, right? You haven't seen one in a while.
They just don't show up at the gun show.
You saw it at the gun zoo, but you didn't see it in the wild. Got it. Okay. That's okay. So someone else named the Rainmaker for Colt?
Right. They had these guns, and they weren't selling good. So this company, I believe it was Graham and Hartley, they put these cool names on them so that people wanted to have a Thunder or a Lightning.
Okay.
Because it's funny, because Colt made a rifle called a Lightning, and then with the pistol, it caused some confusion for them.
Well, yeah. Well, sometimes renaming things that have the same names. Let's look at the like the Ruger Vaquero that has the big frame Vaquero and the little frame Vaquero, and if you use the reloading numbers for the big frame Vaquero for the little one, you'll get all blowed up. So those kind of things.
You always remember that if you doesn't say Magnum afterwards, you shouldn't try to make it a Magnum. You should just go buy one.
Got it. We'll be back right after this.
Grab your friends and head to Georgia to train with the Complete Combatant. The Complete Combatant offers a unique approach to self-defense training, layering the first signs of danger, lethal versus non-lethal decisions, and even surviving the aftermath. They offer premier firearms training with a range master certified instructor and host the top minds in our industry. See the courses offered on thecompletecombatant.com. That's thecompletecombatant.com.
When people use a firearm in self-defense, they could be arrested or sued and face extensive legal costs. Firearms Legal Protection provides uncapped legal defense for any member who uses a legal weapon in defense of themselves or others, providing members with peace of mind in these difficult situations by covering all attorney fees and other benefits. Use code EOTT at firearmslegal.com for a discount on all membership plans. Protect yourself. We'll protect you.
Okay, you ask yourself, who is this Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition, and what do they do? Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition is a not-for-profit group based in Portage County, registered as a 501c3, and organized to educate about the historical intent of the Second Amendment to the Constitution of the United States of America. to share knowledge, to enable citizens to accurately relate and defend aspects of the U.S. Constitution, to enhance public awareness and support for responsible gun ownership, and to emphasize firearms education for women who facilitate the transmittal of constitutional awareness and gun ownership to succeeding generations. How do they intend to do that? By talking to you all and having you talk back, by hosting educational summits and events. So tune in, listen, and participate. RealizeFAC.com.
Ladies, ever wish you could find a brand that understood the difference between feminine and functional? A brand that didn't make you choose between looking good and looking tough. Check out offhandgear.com, a brand designed by a gun girl / mom that closed the gap to give you feminine, durable, functional gear. Offhandgear.com, the brand that gets you.
We all know rust is bad. To help keep rust from forming on your firearms, tools, and other ferrous-based items, you want to have Rust is Bad in your gun-safe toolbox and anywhere you want to be rust-free. Rust is Bad bolsters and G-strings deposit small, safe particles that coat your rust-vulnerable items. Save your valuable items with Rust is Bad. Go to www.eyeonthetargetradio.com and follow the link for more information. That's www.eyeonthetargetradio.com for Rust is Bad.
Your front door, your car, your gun. Safety is a habit. Gun safety and responsible storage are no different, and the best way to help prevent accidents, misuse, and theft. Cable locks help keep firearms secured. Learn how to get a free firearm safety kit. Visit projectchildsafe.org. If you have a firearm, own it, respect it, and secure it. Brought to you by the National Shooting Sports Foundation and the Bureau of Justice Assistance.
Shotgun with Charlie. I'm Charlie Cook from Writing Shotgun with Charlie. Conversations in the car about gun safety, freedoms, and even a few laughs. Imagine you're in the backseat listening to an intimate chat with me and my passengers as we drive all around the country. Listen, watch, and subscribe to the Writing Shotgun with Charlie YouTube channel and podcast.
Okay, so we're back. Let's continue on with this story about Philadelphia, because we got distracted. Imagine that.
Yeah, the thing is, if you went back in the old days, you went into the bank and the old guy was dressed in a uniform of a security guard.
Mm-hmm.
So if these guys were dressed as security guards, then it wouldn't be a deal. If they're dressed as gangbangers, then you might have a little more.
Yeah, I don't know if it's cold. I don't know, but there's COVID. Or it could be the Rona. So he's got a hoodie with the hood up. He's got a face mask on. He's carrying I can't tell what.
They're decked out in Kevlar. So
yeah, so they look like the turtle in the half shell. So would you stop there or not?
Would his uniform have the gas station logo on it? That would be, if it did, then I would think that would belay your fears. If
it doesn't, then yeah.
Then you're not sure what's going on.
Exactly. So the first time by, I would have to. I believe that would be the issue, because I would feel safer if they had the gas station logo on it. If there was some way that I knew that they were security. So if it said security or it said staff or it said something, but otherwise I would be driving down the road going, I just saw a guy with a gun and I don't know why I saw him go, but I'm going to move over another block. Right. That's kind of, especially in a town that is currently known for the amount of crime that it has.
So then it might be better if they had little parapets set up at the gas station where these guys set up in a raised position to where they could cover their section.
So they looked like a lifeguard.
So they were basically there out of eyesight because nobody looks up, and right. They could be watching their stuff.
Oh, I think they need lifeguard chairs. That would be it. The big giant, yeah. Okay, I'm in for the lifeguard chairs. if they're in That would.
I was thinking more like a watchtower with a.
You're thinking the rooftop Koreans, right?
Yeah, with the machine gun and
you're thinking the LA riots and the rooftop Koreans, not the.
Well, that would most people come in. They would be oblivious to the fact that they were even there.
Regular people call them snipers' nests. Our producer says, as opposed to parapets. But okay, just saying. Just saying.
Just whatever.
Okay, keep going.
But I mean, you would think that. I mean, if they were up out of eyesight, most people would not even know they were there. You'd
You're
be
right.
like, "What? Who? Where?"
I'm just listening to my radio.
When somebody
going
comes
down...
up and decides to steal your car, and he catches 2 or 3 rounds from AR overhead, it would discourage the next guy from coming to want to use your car.
Exactly. I mean, exactly. So I just watched. Okay, so wait. Here's another story from one of our listeners. A long time ago, when I was a teen, there was a gas station where they had a gun rack with rifles and shotguns behind the counter. Yeah, and they also sold us soup cans full of gas for a nickel. But and they didn't ask the neighbor kids what they were doing with the soup can full of gas. I'm just saying. I may or may not have been that child with the nickel and the Campbell's soup can. So, but
usually back in those days, you could get a whole like a tomato juice can full.
I had a Campbell's soup can and I had a nickel. I don't remember any more than that. Right. And I had to rub my uncle's back for an hour, I swear, for the nickel. So it was all, I don't know.
Today, that guy took the time to put 5 cents worth of gas in your can. Today, they would get away from me.
Get out of here, kid. What are you doing? I'm calling the police. Yeah. A little heathen.
What's the little juvenile delinquent need a can full of
gas for? What are you going to do? Oh, well, we're not talking about that. We did not burn down the neighbor's house. We did not burn down our own house. We did not burn down the barn. Life is good. Our mother would tell us.
A little folder that says that California that says that causes cancer.
Yeah, right now you get the soup can, the nickel, the gasoline, and then you get this leaflet that you'd have to read. It says, and you have to sign this with 3 copies of carbon paper, right? Wow. So let's talk more about having to defend yourself. Did you see the video where I don't remember what town it was in now, where a coyote came into town and took the toddler, the little pink coated toddler?
No, I didn't see it.
So the dad had gotten the toddler out of the car and the back car door was open. The toddler was standing there. He went around the other side of the car to do something. And while he was over there, he heard the toddler scream and he ran back around the car and a coyote had grabbed the toddler and was dragging him down the sidewalk. So it was in the city enough that there was sidewalks, right? It wasn't like it's your house or my house. There was real sidewalks and everything.
Because we wouldn't put up with coyote pulling that crap.
Eating our kids, right? So the dad had a water bottle or something, threw it at the coyote. Like, that's going to help, right? But he's having to defend his kid from a coyote. There was another video that I saw on the news about a mom going out and wrestling a raccoon that had come in and attacked her kid on the front porch. And so the mom had the raccoon by the scruff of its neck and kept trying to throw it. And that raccoon was not going to be thrown, which means that it was grabbing and holding on too.
So then you start punching the wall using that as
the raccoon as the boxing glove. I'm thinking that you're going to try to put it in a bucket or something, because now they need to test the raccoon because somebody's getting rabies shots, and now I think it's the whole family. But there was that. So these were in the news this week. So on top of that, in Las Vegas, these guys stopped. What do they call that when they kind of come up in front of you and do that stop kind of thing to pin you in? And then they ran out and ran into her car, grabbed her friend, drug her out of the car. So now there's the driver still in the car. The bad guy's getting in the car. They grabbed the driver, drug her out of the car. They're taking her car. So there's a bad guy in the car in front. Then now there's 2 bad guys in her car. And one of the bad guys has got a gun. So she grabs the gun and she takes off running. So then a bad guy chases her. She's got his gun. She turns around and she shoots him with his own darn gun. So I just want to start with good on her. The only thing that would have been better is had she had her own darn gun and she didn't have to wrestle him for his prior to that. But once again, having to defend yourself in your own community, because crime is, it really is, it's getting to more people think that your stuff should be their stuff, and that it doesn't matter that you went to work to get your stuff.
Well, the thing is, the economy gets better, as Joe Biden puts it, where you're going to see more and more of this stuff because they have to work harder to make enough money to cover the cost of when it all went up from the last time they bought it.
I don't know. I mean, I'm reading these stories, and I'm so offended on so many levels to this, and it's like, be prepared, folks. Absolutely be prepared.
Pants on, gun on.
Exactly. It's way
Shoot
better
back first.
if you have your own gun so that you're there. So there's this guy. Then now I got a whole nother Las Vegas story. So here's this guy, and he obviously was traveling somewhere, but wherever he was traveling, he was pants on, gun on, because when he came back to his apartment, he found out that there were squatters in his apartment, and they have taken and destroyed or used or shared or something, everything that he owned, everything down to and including his underwear. There was nothing left in his apartment. So he's trying to, he was trying to go through it, sort through it, talking to the 911 dispatcher when one of the squatters came back into his apartment to see if there was anything else. And when that guy went at him, he shot the squatter, right? So knowing the fact that they'd gone through his house to the point where they'd gotten his underwear.
Well, even if he wasn't a squatter, if you're in your own house and that guy comes in and attacks you for some reason.
Right. So it's the definition, whether it was a squatter.
You might as well give him the bullet collection that goes along with the rest of your stuff.
Right. There is that. So this guy, the funny, not funny part was that, so he shot one of them. The police come, they decline to prosecute, say he's fully within his rights, blah, blah, blah. So they do that whole thing. And then a couple days later, as he's still in there trying to shovel out his apartment and get his life back in order, another one comes in. So that place is now, the only thing I could think of is, remember when you'd read the books about the guys on the trains, that were riding the rail, and they would read the sidewalks, and they would read the side of the road where the marks were for the bums, if you would. Right. They told them where to go for all the free stuff and stuff. I think this guy's house is now marked in a way to where he'll never know how it's marked or where he's marked.
The hobos have marked figured it out all down, and he's a vacation hotspot.
He's a vacation hotspot. So yeah.
I wonder how homeowners insurance is covering all that.
I don't know, but it's the fact that it happens, and then it happens, and so in this case, he has had in the spread of the time that he left on his trip, he has already had 3 break-ins, plus whatever it took in the beginning. Let's count the first one until he discovered it as a singular break-in, which could be one or multiples of their having a high old time in his apartment. But wow. And he says that it's made him feel like he's been stripped of his sense of security and safety. Yeah, wee doggy. I mean, the fact that that multiple people have been in your place and are continuing to come into your place and find your place to be a safe haven where they can get stuff, that's somewhat of a problem. And 1, I'd move, and 2, continue the trend of pants on, gun on. We'll be back right after these messages.
Hi, I'm Janelle Westrom, owner of Davenport Guns and Davenport Shooting Club. At Davenport Guns, we do so much more than sell firearms. We advocate for increased personal safety and security, not just for you, but your whole family and community. Go to DavenportGuns.com to see our online inventory and browse videos, articles, and things we just find entertaining. Sign up for our newsletter to learn more.
This is Cheryl Todd of Gun Freedom Radio, and I am proud to join Amanda Sefcool and all the 50 women, one from each state, in our grassroots efforts to protect the Second Amendment as delegates of the DC Project. Grassroots organizations like the DC Project run on donations, so please consider donating to our GoFundMe/DC Project to keep the promise of freedom alive.
Ladies, ever wish you could find a brand that understood the difference between feminine and functional? A brand that didn't make you choose between looking good and looking tough. Check out offhandgear.com, a brand designed by a gun girl/mom that closed the gap to give you feminine, durable, functional gear. Offhandgear.com, the brand that gets you.
We all know rust is bad. To help keep rust from forming on your firearms, tools, and other ferrous-based items, you want to have Rust is Bad in your gun-safe toolbox and anywhere you want to be rust-free. Rust is Bad bolsters and G-strings deposit small, safe particles that coat your rust-vulnerable items. Save your valuable items with Rust is Bad. Go to www.eyeonthetargetradio.com and follow the link for more information. That's www.eyeonthetargetradio.com for Rust is Bad.
Okay, you ask yourself, who is this Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition, and what do they do? Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition is a not-for-profit group based in Portage County, registered as a 501c3, and organized to educate about the historical intent of the Second Amendment to the Constitution of the United States of America, to share knowledge, to enable citizens to accurately relate and defend aspects of the U.S. Constitution, to enhance public awareness and support for responsible gun ownership, and to emphasize firearms education for women who facilitate the transmittal of constitutional awareness and gun ownership to succeeding generations. How do they intend to do that? By talking to you all and having you talk back, by hosting educational summits and events. So tune in, listen, and participate. RealizeFAC.com.
Your front door, your car, your gun. Safety is a habit. Gun safety and responsible storage are no different, and the best way to help prevent accidents, misuse, and theft. Cable locks help keep firearms secured. Learn how to get a free firearm safety kit. Visit projectchildsafe.org. If you have a firearm, own it, respect it, and secure it. Brought to you by the National Shooting Sports Foundation and the Bureau of Justice Assistance.
Grab your friends and head to Georgia to train with the Complete Combatant. The Complete Combatant offers a unique approach to self-defense training, layering the first signs of danger, lethal versus non-lethal decisions, and even surviving the aftermath. They offer premier firearms training with a Range Master certified instructor and host the top minds in our industry. See the courses offered on thecompletecombatant.com. That's thecompletecombatant.com.
Okay, so let's see. One of the other stories. I mean, we've got so many crime stories. Crime story. And so there's an armed defender that stops 4 robbers in Chicago. He called 911 for help.
He was being carjacked also.
Right? Yes. So, yeah. It's crazy. Yeah, so a car pulls up next to him. There's several teenagers inside, with some reports saying there were 3, and some say 4 teenagers. One of the teenagers got out, pointed a firearm at the intended victim, and told him to hand over his belongings.
Well, one of them got killed, one got shot, and the other one broke his leg in the thing, but that's why they're not sure what the 4th one.
And they're getting, and the ones who are still alive are going to be prosecuted for, what is the term for that? Is that they are, they're going to be prosecuted because they were in the commission of a crime when their cohorts also were in the commission of a crime, and so they are the murderer, as it were. So the other thing is there's a California teen arrested for the second time in as many months for having guns near the school, and so he's 14 years old, and this is crazy, you know. So we're back to this. What do you know? When do you know it? Who knows it? Who knows the problem people? And I would keep reading these articles, and I don't know what to do with that, with the information where they keep saying that this mass murderer, this attacker, this whatever, was known to the police, known to the police, known to the police, known to the police. Okay, known as what to the police? So were they arrested by the police? Should they have been arrested by the police?
Some of that stuff is that the police may know them and they arrest them, but they don't do anything to them. So
is it the police? Is it the courts? Is it the court system?
It's the
activist judges.
Well, there's some of the judges, but also some of it is the guy who is in charge of charging them with a crime.
Prosecutor.
So the prosecutor, sometimes they have been, for lack of a better word, castrated. So they don't usually use the full effect of the law to their best interest.
Right.
Here's one reminded me of Cleavon Little in the old Blazing Saddles movie. The guy was caught by the police, so he holds his gun to his own head.
Right. So yeah. So the thing is that so he puts a gun to his head and he asks the police to shoot him. And so, you know, you're like, well, you shouldn't shoot him for that, right? You should stop him.
They used the bean bags. He fell down,
and then he got up,
not liking that.
Right.
When he got up with his gun in hand, then 3 officers shot him with real guns at that point. And
well, because they can't let him go. They can't say, here's a dude that's willing to shoot himself, and let me just send you out into the community. Right. They kind of have him.
It's like some of the laws where they break off of their high-speed chase because it's more dangerous than letting the guy go or whatever. And so is this the thing where the guy's he's going to shoot himself, so they have to leave him go, or do they keep going, or how?
Well, they can't let him out in the community. I mean, I think it's a tough call. Yeah, and so here's another one. One of our listeners says that they let the guy in New York City. There was a guy in New York City that was walking down the street, had secreted on his person a baseball bat. He came up to a guy, beat him about the head and shoulders with the baseball bat, and then carried on his way. So they arrested him, took him to jail, and someone let him out. So the United States as a whole should be, frankly, up in arms about that. And so you look at this. I mean, I feel for the officers in this case, because here's someone who is willing to take their own life, which means they're willing to take your life because they don't have. So there are things going on, but putting them in that circumstance is a tough place to be. And I think they were in a no-win circumstance.
Well, I think that the general public really doesn't care anymore. They've kind of divorced themselves from reality, and so they live in a fantasy world that.
Well, they want to be able to say, in the perfect world, it would be like this,
right? But
this isn't the perfect world.
We pay the police for a reason. There's rules that are set up that they've spent a couple hundred years figuring out what's yes and no on.
Well,
and yet we still have spots where no matter which way they go, they do it wrong because they can't win with the public sentiment.
Yeah, they're in a no-win situation. I mean, since we had the story before this where we're like, they're known to the police, they're known to the police, they're known to the police. Why didn't they do something about it? Had the police let this guy go and him do something?
So we don't have enough facilities to keep everybody in jail, and then the ones that are mentally ill, they don't have anything to deal with them. So
to make them better, right?
So do you just continue holding these guys? I mean, is their mental illness a life sentence in prison because
I don't know. How do you know when they're better? How do you know when they're bad enough to need to be held? How do you know when they're better enough that requires or causes them to be
right? And some of it is the colleges have taught these psychologists, I guess it would be, that everybody just has a bad day, and there's nothing wrong with them. And other spots where the liberal side of the thing with the prosecutors are like, well, why do we charge them bail money? It just makes it a hardship for their family or whatever. So it's somebody has to be a bad guy, and we don't want them to be the bad guy on us, so we need to be the bad guy on them.
Right. So we don't want the bad guy to be so we've not been treating the bad guy like the bad guy. Right. Because we're trying to make it it's not their fault.
If you pat him on the head and say, we're sorry, and let him go again, he comes out and then he uses a ball bat on you, or he kills you, or he rapes you, or he steals your stuff.
Or he goes to your apartment and squats and says that this is now my apartment and I'm going to wear your underwear.
Right. Well, look at they got that case up in Idaho, or Moose, Idaho, or whatever it is, where nobody knows who killed all those college
the 4 college students, right?
And then too, some of the stuff is just now coming out. Oh, well, we're looking for a white car and this and that. It's like, well, what were they looking for the last 3 weeks? And
exactly, yeah. So yeah, they hadn't said, and then they were like, oh, well, the neighbors think they heard a noise here, but since it was a college housing unit,
it's a normal
noise because they were Party Central is what the kind of is coming out to be the rumor. I mean, Party Central is not a death sentence by any means, but it is a spot where the neighbors are like, oh yeah, you're just loud, so I'm just turning up the radio, right?
Closing the curtains or
whatever that is, because you guys sound like you're jumping off the diving board and having a high old time. And and I
got to go to work at 4 in the morning.
Exactly, right? I mean, and you could kind of visualize that. So later they're like, I should have, that might have been a clue.
Well, like they say, hindsight is 20/20. I mean, everybody thinks that they could have done better, but they, in reality, could you or would you or?
I don't know that you would. I mean, so it really is the spot.
And I prefer my neighbor doesn't have his nose in my business, so
right. My neighbors pretty much leave me alone, and I leave them alone. And
so if something happens to me and he can't really tell you anything about it, then he was being a good neighbor.
He was doing. Now, I'm pretty sure the neighbor. I'm not saying there's a neighbor somewhere locally that's got binoculars, but that's a whole different story. And those are whoever they are. So, folks, thanks so much for tuning in to Eye on the Target Radio. You're listening to Rob and Amanda, and we are here each and every week from 5 to 7 p.m. Eastern Time, and we'll see you next week.
Okay, you ask yourself, who is this Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition, and what do they do? Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition is a not-for-profit group based in Portage County, registered as a 501c3, and organized to educate about the historical intent of the Second Amendment to the Constitution of the United States of America, to share knowledge, to enable citizens to accurately relate and defend aspects of the U.S. Constitution, to enhance public awareness and support for responsible gun ownership, and to emphasize firearms education for women who facilitate the transmittal of constitutional awareness and gun ownership to succeeding generations. How do they intend to do that? By talking to you all and having you talk back, by hosting educational summits and events. So tune in, listen, and participate. Realize FAC